Xenoverse 2 is almost 7 years old, my boys. If you have been a day one like I have and been on this game for almost 7 years of your life, let me know down below in the comments. Now, in these 7 years, there have been great updates. There have been, well, some bad updates. There's been some fire updates, and there's been some, well, ass updates, right? And in today's video, I want to focus on some of the worst updates that have ever come to this game, and in particularly two things that they changed in the core mechanics of the gameplay that truly did change Xenoverse 2, whether it may have been for the better in some people's eyes, but in a lot of people's eyes, I think these changes are definitely for the worse of the game and changes that people really did not like too much overall. So that's gonna be the focus in today's video. Now I want you guys to let me know down below in the comments, what are some of your least favorite updates that this game has gotten, or some of the worst things that have come to this game in your opinion? Let me know down below in the comments. Now again, there's been some fire updates at the same time, but in today's video I want to focus on two things in particular that came in free updates that truly changed Xenoverse 2 in a way that I would say was not for the better. And the first one I want to discuss is an update that came in DLC 5, I believe, and that is the update and change with limit bursting. Limit bursting is a mechanic that was not in the game when it first came out. Some people may have forgotten that were actually OGs of Xenoverse 2, and then some people who did not come to the game till after the first 2 years or so may not have even ever known that. Because if you came to the game after DLC 5, limit bursting was just part of it. Like, that's something you probably thought was in the game from day one, when in fact it was a mechanic that was actually added in around DLC 5 or 6, I do believe. Now, this mechanic is one that for the most part a lot of people do not like on this game. Now, there are ways around it, and people have become a little bit more accepting of it, because things like using it during a stamina break, like when your stamina is broken, a lot of people used to really hate that, and I still think that's not the best way for this mechanic to work. But at the same time, people have also figured out ways to counter that. There are evasives you can use, things along those lines, to actually counter limit bursting. But at the same time, there are limit bursts that offer nonsense stat buffs, like the auto just guard, the super armor. The health and stamina recovery one is honestly one that is kind of slept on by a lot of people. Like, it's actually a very good one. You're almost getting a bar of health back, and then through that time your stamina recovery is much faster as well during the limit burst activation. So that is something that definitely can change a match around, because again, you're getting almost a bar of health, and stamina is such a big factor in this game. Gaining that much more stamina at that much faster of a rate is definitely an advantage without a doubt in a match. So those three in particular are the ones that I think a lot of people have issue with in terms of stat buffs. And if limit bursting was to be changed and reworked a little bit, I don't think many people would have a problem with it at all. It's just the way it is right now. It was a great idea, but bad execution, in my opinion, at the very least, because to me, this is how limit bursting should work. First and foremost, I don't think you should necessarily be able to use it during a stamina break. Now again, there are counters to it, so I don't mind it nearly as much now as I did back then, but I don't think that you should be able to use it during that. Like, if anything, you should know your opponent is about to stamina break you if you don't have stamina, and you should activate it at that point in time. And I feel a lot more people would if they knew that they could not use it during the actual break process. So there's that side of it, right? But then also, in terms of the stat increases, I don't think those other three should exist. Honestly, I think there should only be one stat increase, and one alone, in this game when it comes to limit bursting, and that is the attack and key recovery boost. That should be the only one in the game that actually applies to limit burst, because then limit burst would be a lot more of a balanced mechanic. It wouldn't be one where sometimes your opponent has super armor, sometimes your opponent has auto just guard, things along those lines. It would just be one thing, similar to sparking in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Like, imagine if FighterZ had different sparkings in the game, and you had different effects with different sparkings, things along those lines. I don't think people necessarily would like that. It kind of reminds me of the Infinity Stone mechanic in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which was definitely one that not a lot of people necessarily liked. So again, limit bursting to me was a great idea, just bad execution on the part of Bandai and Dimps, and one that is probably one of the worst updates and changes to the game based off of how it actually works. Now, if it was to be changed and updated to how, like I said, where there's only the one stat buff and you can't use it during a stamina break, like once your stamina is broken, you can't use it, then I do think it would be a truly great mechanic in Xenoverse 2, because it would, in a sense, give you that second chance when it does come, because that's what it's meant to be, a second chance mechanic. So right when your opponent is about to stamina break and you see that coming, you use your limit burst, get them off you, you have a second chance at life to kind of get back in that match, right? And your stat buff is not going to be something to where your opponent can't hit you with like super armor, or they got to be careful with the auto just guard, things like that won't be in effect. It'll just be the attack up and key auto recovery. So I think that would definitely be a good way to change limit bursting and change the fact that that was one of the worst updates Xenoverse 2 has probably ever gotten. Now, the second one that I want to talk about in this video is one that, I mean, I just don't know why they did this. Like, it doesn't make sense to me why they would change the way back hits work in Xenoverse 2. Back hits used to be something that was, I mean, it was very relevant in this game. Back hitting, especially, I mean, in Xenoverse 1, if you could back hit, you were basically a god. It was kind of crazy. Like, the fact that back hitting was so strong in Xenoverse 1, but even in Xenoverse 2, it got to the point where predicting an opponent's vanish and getting that back hit off was actually something that a lot of people were good at. They were able to predict their opponent, and when they got that prediction off with the back hit, you were actually rewarded for that. But now you have these iframes or something along those lines where basically you cannot be touched for a certain amount of time after you vanish. And you'll notice at times now when you're playing Xenoverse 2, you'll do a back hit and like your fist will literally, like, this is the dude's face, it just, you know, it completely passes through his face, and you literally see that, and that's due to the change that was made with back hitting on this game. Like I said, it was such a big and relevant mechanic in the game and feature of actual matches on Xenoverse 2, but now, I mean, to be honest, unless you're a scrub, and no offense if you are a scrub getting hit by these, but unless you're a scrub, you're not going to get hit by back hits. And it's not even necessarily that you're a scrub, you just may not know the game. Like, I still have matches with people that are clearly brand new to the game, and they are just trying to attack me after each and every single vanish, and they're just getting back hit, and all their stamina's gone. The match is over in like 20-30 seconds. That does happen, and I don't think it's necessarily because they're bad or they just suck. It's just they don't necessarily know yet at that point in time how back hits work and how to avoid them, things like that. But again, unless you are a scrub and fall into that category, you're not going to get hit by a back hit for the most part in this game anymore. Like, it just does not happen. I remember when I used to host tournaments back in the day, back hits were actually a major part of them. Now, when I host tournaments, I don't think I've seen anybody back hit in these tournaments, I mean, at all. Like, ever. I can't even remember the last time somebody did back hit and if it actually even worked in the tournaments that I do run, because it is very, very rare to see someone do it, because one, it's very easy to perfect block now. Two, like I said, your fist kind of goes through their face if you do predict it properly. And then three, I mean, it's just, well, it kind of goes into the same category too. The fact that you have those iframes or whatever they are that were added to your vanish when you use your stamina, whatever they did, it truly messed up back hits, and it made it to where it's not really a relevant feature in this game anymore, which does suck. Like, that is something that was, you know, kind of hype in a sense. When you would predict somebody's vanish, like, it was almost like, yeah, bitch, I got your ass type of moment. And it was just something that added a little bit more, I guess you could say, hype or, you know, cool moments in a sense to Xenoverse 2. Like, I just remember, you know, watching the tournaments of old back in the day and seeing the predicted back hits like that in high level gameplay is something that is good, cool and good to see, because you can see these players reading each other and reading their opponents and getting that back hit timing off perfectly was just always something that was cool to see and watch and do yourself as well in this game. But again, sadly, they changed the way back hits work, and they are just basically non-existent anymore at this point in time in Xenoverse 2. And this may be another change that you did not know of if you are someone who came to the game later down the line. You may not have known how relevant and just, you know, much more back hits were used back in the day as opposed to now, because this is something that was changed, I believe, around like somewhere between DLC, I would say 7 to 10. Somewhere in that time range is when back hits were actually changed. And again, I still do not know why until this day, they actually did that. But those two, without a doubt, to me, are some of the worst updates that this game has ever seen, without a doubt. Like, I don't know why they did what they did with back hits and then limit bursting. While it was a great idea conceptually, I don't think they executed it the best, and it's why it's become a mechanic that not a lot of people truly do like in this game. And even if they've gotten to the point where they're good at countering it and reading when a limit burst is coming, things along those lines, there are still some effects of limit burst, like the super armor, auto just guard, the health and stamina recovery, things like that, that are a bit, you know, I don't want to say, well, yeah, I guess I can say OP, because I mean, super armor, come on, super armor in any fighting game for like 30 seconds is never a good idea, especially when the fighting game has a 3-minute timer. Like, literally, that is a sixth of the whole match. Your opponent has super armor when they activate that limit burst. So again, to me, those are two of the worst updates that have ever come to Xenoverse 2. Let me know your thoughts on these updates, and what are some of your least favorite updates that have ever come to this game. Let me know down below in the comments. But till next time, man, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, hope you have a good one. Peace, y'all.